everyone, it's Linda from LyndaCreates, and I'm working on my next project. It is, of all things, a project bag. My goal with this project bag is to not buy anything, to upcycle, recycle. Things that are thrifted or gifted are the only things that I'm allowed to use, except maybe thread. Maybe. I think I even have thrifted thread in here too. So I'm going to see how this goes. So let me show you what I'm working with. To start off, I have this huge canvas bag that I got when I was working at Sizzix. And it's a wonderful bag. It's a very nice, thick canvas. It has this graphic, which I want to change. The back is blank, which is great. I'm going to do that too. But the front, I definitely wanted to cover this. So the first thing I pulled out was something I had left over from a previous project, is distressed denim jeans. This is the front side I used on another project, so this is what I have left. I'm going to use that, keep the pocket, do some work on it, but keep the pocket and sew that onto the bag. I have extra pieces of denim, and I found some fabric that complement the color of the denim. I also just recently thrifted this beautiful stripe, and then I wanted to pull in some color, but under control color. So I had a scrap of this fabric, again, thrifted, gifted, or free. I'm going to use this because it has some beautiful color in it, but then I want to do something else. This is going to be added in there. I had another piece of this which I wanted to use, add a little bit of the pink, not sure how yet, but from previous projects I have made patches, so I want to definitely use this patch somewhere on the finished project. I also had this, which I just love, so I thought both of these can go to add a little bit of color to this. So my goal with this project, and I'm just starting off right now, is to only use thrifted, gifted, or free items to make this bag. I don't want to buy anything. That is a whole goal. That's why I'm using a thrifted bag as the base. That was a giveaway from Sizzix. So all the supplies will go into this project bag, and the fun part is every once in a while I'll share what is in my project bag, what I'm working on at any given time. So let me go ahead and get started. So before I cut into this pair of thrifted jeans, I want to use a pocket both on the front and the back, and because although they look really cool, for what I really plan to use this as a project bag with things in it. The holes aren't going to be the most efficient. So that's what this fabric's for. I'm going to add it in there. And you can kind of see, let me hide that. You can see the color comes through a little bit, and I'll stitch this down. What I do want is each piece. This piece, one's going to go in the front, one's going to go in the back. First thing I want to do is cut this apart. Hold on, let me get my sewing scissors. So I have a funny story about my sewing scissors. You know how your sewing scissors are sacred? They only cut fabric, no paper. Well, one year, and this was while I was still working at Sizzix, for a Halloween costume, I was going to be Edna from The Incredibles. So I was making a dress. So I had all of this puffy black fabric sitting on my kitchen counter, and I was cutting out that fabric. Well, I had these scissors sitting next to it, kind of hidden underneath a little bit of the fabric. not thinking much about it, which I should have thought a little bit more. Well, without me knowing it, my dear boyfriend walked in. He needed to open a package. You know, one of those really hard plastic ones that holds things that you just can't open unless you cut it off. Well, he was cutting it off with the first scissor he found. Guess which scissors he used? Yes, the ones that you're not supposed to cut even paper with. He used these little guys to cut the hardest plastic ever. Yes. Still love him. Still keep him around. But my scissors suffered. I don't think he understands what he did, but that's okay. So the conclusion of my earlier story about these scissors is he offered to have them sharpened, but I haven't taken him up on that yet, which is why I'm struggling. And these were actually thrifted as well. So there's one piece. And let me show you real quick where I'm going to use it. I want to have it right in between there. And my plan is to sew along the edge so it also becomes a pocket on the outside. Now I still have graphics showing on the sides, which is where additional bits of denim will work in. I also love these little fringy parts of the old denim. I need to fix this pocket, and I am going to do that with some slow stitching. And that's the other reason I picked these very bright colors, because it has to show up behind that. Okay. Now I liked showing some of the pink back there. I trimmed out the piece of fabric, so I want some pink and a little bit of green showing through here. This is crochet cotton. Even my needles are all thrifted. I'm using a sharp needle, but with a fairly big eye. Okay, that works great with this cord, which is actually this color, the Pro Cotton. Okay, I guess that determines it. I had a little left over on my needle. It's going to be Pro Cotton. And as you can see, I need to do this before I stitch this down, because I think it's a lot easier to maneuver the denim for the stitching this way. Okay, so I have some dark pink in there. I have a little bit of green, and I have a little bit of light pink. I always start in the middle because that gives me an idea of straight stitches. And what I'm going to do is end where the tear starts. So I'm going to make sure and stitch down all these edges of the blue denim and leave these pieces open because the fabric underneath will hold it. And this is truly where the mindful stitching comes into play, because all I'm thinking about actually is just making sure I catch the edge of this denim on this side so that the tear doesn't continue, and trying to keep a straight stitch. I finished both of the pockets now, and this has a little bit of blue sticking out, and this has the pink and reds, and you could see how the cantha stitching, the visible mending stitch. So I was thinking about this, and while I still have it that I could stitch easily on it, I decided I wanted to use a few flowers coming out, so like stitched up in here. I pulled together some colors I'm going to use pearl cottons for the flowers and then embroidery floss for the leaves, and this periwinkle color is going to be the little hyacinth coming up here. Now for the butterfly, I'm kind of thinking to hit it with something shiny. I don't know. I have some rayon in here. I have trouble working with it, but I might use that. There's metallic. I don't know. I want to use something shiny to do the butterfly because they're shiny. But right now, I just want to do a few flowers, leaves. It comes up like this. Maybe just like 3 of them. And the hyacinth there. I'm just going to start. We'll see what happens. So I'm just going to do lazy daisy stitches, and I'm going to try to do rather, sometimes these lazy daisy stitches can get very narrow, almost spiky looking. So I am going to try to keep them plump, more oval. And you know, you could do fancier stitches, but I really just want stress-free fun. So to add a little more interest to these little flowers, I decided to come back in their centers with a slightly darker shade of pearl cotton, and I'm just adding a single stitch down the center. Okay, so you could see how it goes from a plain lazy daisy to something with a little more interest in it. And it just teases the eye that it's a more complex stitch than it really is. So I'll finish that off, and I'm going to come back with a few French knots in the center. Okay. So now I learned how easy a pistol stitch is, and that it makes a great butterfly antennae. So I was thinking of stopping there. This will be basically the pocket that'll go on the front of my project bag. But I wanted to, I had so much fun stitching, doing this slow stitching here. I think I'm going to do a little slow stitching somewhere over here. My thinking is that once I attach it to the bag, I won't be able to do a lot of stitching on it easily. So if I do some decorative stitching here, right now, I'll have it in there. And I'm going to use the giant ball. Okay, this was thrifted. The amount of crochet cotton in here, if I use it for slow stitching, canvas stitching here, it will take me a lifetime or more to get through that. So my thinking is I better start now, right? Get some stitching in. Okay, woohoo! Another yard off my giant cantha ball. It's a very fine crochet cotton. I'm sure it was designed for lace making. I am stitching away. I'm going to start here. I'm going to make it obvious that I'm following that line, and I'm also going to crisscross these at an angle, which normally people would go up and down 90-degree angles, but because I'm following the pocket outline. I want to share where I'm at right now. I have finished stitching as much as I want to do on the pocket itself. So I have my little bits of flowers, and I have this canthus stitched down so it won't tear anymore. I did some canthus stitching down in this part at different angles. I love how that turned out. And then I just finished off a little bit of thread here on the edge of the pocket. I just used what scrap pearl cotton I had and did a blanket stitch around part of the edge just to add some color there. So now I have it in place on the top here. I want the two belt loops in between the canvas handle. So that's where it's going to be sewn down. It gives me an idea of where this is going to fall naturally. Now you can see I have a lot of this printing showing up on this side, a little bit over here, and a little bit down here. I have been working out how I want this all to come together. And then I started layering fabrics. I want some of these for the denim to go on top of and some behind. So things like, I like the fringe down here, so I have it in front. I wanted to soften this edge of the denim, so I added this fabric, and I added this fabric behind. And again, I'm also covering up that graphic, the picture on the back side of the bag. What I did too is on this fabric, I have it wrap around to the side of the bag. This is a gusset here, so it'll go part way across the side. So that's how the width of the bag will look. And then at the bottom, I also calculated where the edge of the bottom of the bag will be. So this fabric will go right along the edge. And I'm going to machine stitch the basics of the fabric on just to make sure it's sturdy enough to hold up to use. I think after I have it all pinned, I think I like it better where the pocket's straight and the waistband part is at an angle. So let me unpin things again and straighten it out and see how we like it. So the pocket is straighter, the waistband comes down, but that's okay because this is a pocket, so it gives you room to reach in. I think I could straighten out the pocket a little bit more, but definitely want to do it this way. There we go. The pocket's straight. The angle right here is okay because again, it's jeans. It looks better this way, I think. And now I can go ahead and start stitching it down. I'll bring out my sewing machine and start sewing by layers. I'm getting ready to stitch this next piece, and this is a good time to make sure, using my hand inside the bag to make sure I don't have any part of the back side of the bag, and it's clear enough to go stitching through, remove my hands, and go ahead and start always needle down, and let's start stitching again. I'm going to sew on this denim pocket section. Just wanted to show up here in this area, I know my sewing machine is not going to make it through all of these layers of fabric. There's probably at least, well, depends on where you get to, but there's about 4 or 5 layers of denim minimum. I don't think I could sew through that. My little machine just can't do that. So we are making do. Now the thing is, I do want to use a sewing machine because this is going to be a functional pocket. And that means things are going to go in and out of it, and I want it to hold up really well. Again, please make sure, I haven't been watching, that the back of the bag isn't getting caught. I've sewn down the pocket and all of these patches. Now this one wraps around to the side of the bag. This one I did not finish sewing down because I don't know if I'm going to overlap something. Well, it just goes to the side. I guess I could finish sewing this down. I kind of waited thinking that I might add something. Now, the part that I haven't sewn are these 2 super thick sides up here. The top of the jean is still a viable pocket. This is still a pocket. Oh, I can put my iPhone right here if I wanted to. The other thing is having this little bit of background fabric showing. What I'm going to do is, I have this lace which I want to use right there anyway, so that will cover up most of that. It'll be our little secret, don't tell. This patch that I made, I'm thinking I may add it down here somewhere, so I'm going to hand sew those on at the same time that I hand sew the top of the pocket. I'm here at a campsite in Southern California. I wanted to share what I've brought on this trip. It's a project bag. They're calling it now an analog tote or an analog bag by some people, but it's basically a project bag. And I thought I'm going to make one using only things I have around the house. This is it in the works. Right, there's the front of it. And I found out that my needle book fits perfectly in that pocket. So what I brought in this bag is my little basket, and in it are the stitching things that I need. Let me bring it in a little bit closer. Okay, so I have my stitching bits and bobs, scissors and things like that. I also brought just a couple of these embroidery floss boxes. And then on the bottom here, I found this book. I thrifted it at my local thrift craft store. I know you can find all kinds of stitches and information on how to do the stitches, but until you know the name of it, sometimes it's hard to find unique stitches, which is why I found this book. There's stitches I would love to try, but I think I'll need to do a kind of a practice fabric first to try these stitches out, which gives me a fun project to think about and work on. So I brought something to read. I brought some supplies to stitch. I brought my tools in my little basket, also thrifted. And this bag is a little floppy, but it's still a perfect bag for it. What I want to do is every once in a while share what I have in my project bag. And again, these will be things that do not include digital distractions. So it'll be all analog, but it's what I've always known it to be called. It's a project bag, and it's just everything you need to finish a project. I'm working on my project bag as I carry my project bag and enjoying the sights and sounds and the smells of being outside, which is just wonderful. And this is perfect Southern California weather. Not too hot, not too cold. It is windy sometimes, but it's absolutely gorgeous. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that project, especially the idea of a project bag does not need to cost you any money. It's just everything thrifted or gifted. Please like and subscribe and give it a thumbs up and share it. Leave a comment. Love to hear comments from people. So thank you again so much for watching. As things kind of come at me from a campsite here in Southern California with my project bag and working on projects. So I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.